Looking forward to the conversation that, believe it or not, can sometimes be controversial. I don't know how often I bring up this topic with a CEO or a founder that comes to me thinking about building out their go-to-market motion, and I mention this, and they're like, whoa, 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 I just want to go hire a sales leader. So we'll talk in the next 20 minutes about why an early-stage business can benefit from having one leader that is responsible for sales and CX. We'll also talk about some of the considerations and where it may not be applicable. How many people here have heard of customer with a K? All right, a few folks. So I'll give you a quick bit of background on customer. Founded in 2015 by two amazing technologists, Brad Birnbaum and Jeremy Surreal. They had previously exited their prior company to a small company called Salesforce.com. And the entire kind of premise behind customer is that it's a CRM for customer service. So it's not a new space, it's not a new category. You've probably heard of people like Zendesk and Salesforce Service Cloud and Intercom and others. So customer was very much, or is very much, a rip and replace business. Our average deal size was about $75K ACV, selling to mid-market, low enterprise. And we had a really healthy cross-sell, upsell motion. Customer ended up exiting to Meta for just over $1 billion, and actually was then spun out of Meta, which is not part of this story, but for another day. So myself, Vikas, Bhambri, been in tech for 30 years, been in SaaS since the very early days. For those of you who might have a little bit of gray hair like me, I was at Oracle Open World then when Benioff led the protest. So that's how long I've been around, since the early days of SaaS. So a lot of history there and a lot of experience. We did not set out to have a single leader for sales and CX. So I wish I could say that we were really smart and we knew that this was going to be the right thing for us and our business. But we actually kind of accidentally fell into it, right? And so sometimes I believe it's better to be lucky than good, and in this case, we were lucky. So I joined Customer as the VP of Sales. In 2017, I had 3 salespeople and 1 BDR, and was told to go build the business. And then we had a transition on the leadership level, and our CEO looked at me and said, hey, we've got these 5 people in CX. So at that point, they kind of had a mixed set of responsibilities, but mostly onboarding. We had 1 support person. And he said, can you take this on temporarily? Temporarily lasted a long time, almost 6 years, and 220 people across the organization by the time I left after the Meta spin out. So that was an exciting run. Obviously, it led to tremendous growth and success in the business. But just to give you a sense of kind of the responsibility, I was responsible for traditional sales, so enterprise, mid-market, AEs, sales leaders, business development, BDRs, channel, the sales consulting team, RevOps enablement, professional services, customer success, and support. So the full life cycle. And that really led to some significant benefits for us and our customers. And I think is the reason that we were able to grow so quickly in a category that, for those of you who know help desk, ticketing, contact center, it's a core system. And we weren't, like I said, we weren't creating a new category, but we were also trying to get companies to rip out these core customer support platforms that were some of the best SaaS companies on the planet, right? Imagine Zendesk, Salesforce, right? These are not, companies that have major issues and all of that. So trying to get them to rip out because we have a better platform was certainly a challenge. But we benefited from the fact that in the early days in particular, right, when you think about, we get into all these mapping exercises and we go in and we go, okay, we've got to do our customer journey, and the marketing leader gets in the room, and the sales leader, and the CS leader, or the CX leader, and maybe the CEO or whoever. One of the things that's often missed in the early days is that the customers are betting their careers and their livelihood on you as an early stage company. And so those relationships matter. So one of the things we found when we made this transition, accidentally, as I mentioned, is customers really appreciated the fact that myself as the leader on the quote-unquote sales side was the same hand that they were going to shake or throat they were going to choke if something went wrong post-sale, right? It wasn't this kind of game that you often see in SaaS companies and businesses where it's like the sales guy goes in and sells and then something happens, not my problem, like go talk to the CX leader or go talk to the customer success leader, right? So one of the things that I really leaned into early on, every time I met with the customers, I made it very clear to them that things will happen in deployment. Things will happen post-sale, right? We are a new company that's trying to figure this out, but when it does, here's my phone number. I'm the guy you call. I'm not directing this elsewhere. And so that was a significant benefit. I think some of the other things is it allowed me, as our business matured, to really think about our life cycle holistically and how we wanted to onboard customers to ensure long-term growth, right? Because the thing is, we were looking to build a big, significant business, and so we didn't want to just burn and churn through customers. The other thing is just getting sales and customer success teams to think about the messaging that we wanted to deliver and giving a unified customer experience. So just a little levers, right? Like, if you think about a lot of SaaS companies, a lot of times they don't even introduce the customer success person until after the customer is fully live, because they don't want to mess with the onboarding team or the professional services team. And that might work. But having a single leader that's in all these conversations can say, wait, why are we doing it this way? Why don't we just move this piece up here and introduce the customer success person up front? So a lot of different things you can do. And just to give you kind of an expectation, when we kind of put this in, our net retention at peak was about 140%, right? So best in class in terms of net retention and growth within our existing customer base. Because the biggest thing it gave our customers was faith that we were going to be there after the contract was signed. I talked about some of our revenue growth already, right? One of the things, I'm sure, if you talk to your sales leaders, if they exclusively own sales, they can identify bottlenecks in the process, right? Where are things kind of slowing down either deal cycles or their conversion rates? In a SaaS business, quite often this is tied to the delivery side of the house or the post-sale side of the house, right? How quickly does it get to get a statement of work out? How quickly does it take to get a discount on professional services? So once again, the benefit of having a single leader that can look at this and say, wait, what are we trying to optimize for at this stage of our company's life cycle, right? In alignment with the CEO, the board, the CFO, to say right now, ARR is king. We have to go and acquire customers. But we also don't need to acquire all customers, right? One of the things, many times I'll go into a situation or an organization that's looking for some advice or help, and I'll sit down with the CS leader, and they will give me a laundry list of all the customers that are not a fit for their platform, and all the issues that are being escalated because they don't fit their ICP. And my first question is, so why did you sign them? And he's like, I don't know. Ask the sales guy, right? Or sales gal, right? They went and signed them because they've got numbers to hit. They've got booking targets, right? So once again, having a single leader, trust me, I did not want to hear from customers that were unhappy. So that held me accountable to making sure we had customers that were the right fit for our platform. And not everybody was, right? One of the things I learned early on was we were not a fit for B2B. And so every time one of my sales guys tried to shoehorn in a B2B customer that was on Salesforce or Zendesk, I was like, wait a minute. We're not doing this. Because they're going to be really annoyed 90 days after we sign, and I'm the guy they're going to call. So we're going to stick to our ICP, which is B2C, right? So having that discipline, which benefits the entire business, right? You think about the strain that sometimes your go-to-market can put on your product organization, your finance organization, and other parts of your business. If you have that kind of commitment and conviction, then it lessens the burden on the entire supply chain within your organization. And look, let's not lie. Having a single leader, especially early on, can force collaboration. I know we all want to live in this kind of optimistic world where everybody gets along, everybody works together, especially in a distributed environment, right? Having a leader who can say, look, sales and CS, this is how we're going to work together and how we're going to manage these accounts and how I'm going to look at even a P&L to figure out who I'm paying on what. At what point do I pay a salesperson for organic growth or add-ons, and at what point do I pay a customer success person, et cetera? When you have different leaders in different silos, a lot of times even that conversation breaks down. Early stage companies, we all know this, so I'm preaching to the choir here, right? We need to move as fast as the data is available to us. And so being able to sit with my RevOps team and look across the entire life cycle of our customers to optimize for things like pricing, the feedback we wanted to give to product, right? Once again, as a leader who kind of sat across sales and CX, I looked at all the things that the go-to-market or the sales side of the house wanted to have because they said they want to increase TAM or there's opportunities they want to take down. And then I had to look at all the requirements that were coming in from my existing customer base, meld the two so I could go to our product leader and our CTO and say, hey, these are actually the 10 things we need. So not an internal battle amongst the go-to-market team to try to optimize for like, I got one customer I'm trying to retain or one deal I'm trying to win, but what is truly in the benefit of the business as we try to build this great big SaaS company. Revenue forecasting. A lot of times, you'll see it in organizations where you go in and you try to understand, like, how much money are you going to get out of your existing customer base? I don't know. Like, we have no idea, right? It's like even understanding the forecasting behind that, right? How do we make sure that we're running similar plays to understand the forecasting and the growth for our existing customers? So being able to make data-driven decisions. So, is this a fit for everybody? I would say if you're in kind of particularly a PLG motion, right, where maybe the deal sizes are small, the transactions are really fast, you're probably not going to optimize, especially in the early days of having a single leader, because you want your sales leader really out there cranking, or your marketing leader, right, really going out there and just focusing on acquisition. So you're probably not going to benefit from having a single leader in that environment. But there does hit that threshold where it probably becomes too much. And I think we were kind of reaching there around 50-ish, especially when you try to think about giving this leader the responsibility of scaling out the business, right? And when I think about that, I think about, for a US-based business going global, right, doing other things, I think that becomes a challenge. I think at some point, you do end up with competing priorities, right? And is the customer base getting enough of a voice and a single point of failure, right? So a lot of times you'll see companies will eventually morph to a CRO, right? We see it at 50, 75, $100 million companies. Maybe didn't start out that way. So the question is, can you start there, maybe move to more of a distributed environment where you've got a dedicated sales leader and CX leader, and then go back to being a CRO. The one thing I would have done differently is I would have brought in a CX leader, because if you remember the org chart, I had PS, CS, and support reporting into me pretty far along, and I think at probably an earlier juncture, I would have brought in a dedicated CX leader. So that's definitely something I would do differently if I was to do it again. So what have we covered in the last 20 minutes or so? If the clicker... Oh, did I lose myself? All right. I'll recap, and then we'll figure out the technology after the fact. So look, we had tremendous growth and success from having a single leader that was responsible for sales and CX. I think particularly In particular, when you're selling to mid-market enterprise as an early-stage company, you can benefit from it, especially if there's a robust implementation, onboarding, and growth part of your business, right? If it's not just a quick, switch on or kind of PLG motion. The advantages are we can always optimize the customer journey. We can look at our, how do we enhance revenue growth, right? So what plays can we run quicker, faster? And then always looking at the data holistically across the entire revenue stream to figure out how do we grow this business together.